This episode of the Coarse podcast has been brought to you by Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, family-owned and operated screen printing and embroidery business located in a historic storefront on Old Berwick Road in the heart of Espy. They've been doing screen printing for over 20 years. They have high-quality product at a low price. Be sure to check them out. Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, 570-784-1212. Now, on to the show.
Hi, everybody. It's Chef Carrie Baird from Bardo here in Denver, Colorado, and you're listening to Shawn Rosler on the Coarse podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is episode number 72 of the Coarse Grind podcast. With you as always, host, creator, and now very, very, very short-haired Shawn Rosler. My wife just shaved my head. It was kind of fun. That's really of no benefit to anybody listening, so we're just going to move on past that. You know, week after week, I struggle to move past Top Chef Colorado as the current benchmark for new and exciting chef guests. I think I referred to myself actually last week as, how did I put it, a one-trick pony. But you know what? I'll put it this way. If you had a series of guests this amazing and this talented, you would be hard-pressed as hell to turn away. I haven't turned away yet, kids, and I'm not about to, especially given the tenure of tonight's guest. Buckle up, because here we go. Tonight's guest is the executive chef and owner of the famous Brown Sugar Kitchen in Oakland, California. She's known for her inventive takes on modern soul food as well as comfort classics. The author of Brown Sugar Kitchen New Style, Down-Home Recipes from Sweet West Oakland, and New Soul Cooking, updating a cuisine rich in flavor and tradition. She's known for her role as a host and expert on soul food for the Melting Pot series on Food Network, where chefs such as Holland, Michelle Bernstein, Kat Cora, Rocco DeSpirito, and Michael Simon focused on different foods from around the world. Not a big name list there at all. Our guest received her formal French training, receiving a Grand Diplôme from La Vraie École de Cuisine in Burgundy, France. She's contributed to the Huffington Post, Food and Wine, Signature Bride, and Wine Enthusiast magazines, and has been featured in articles in O Magazine, The Wall Street Journal, and numerous other publications. Tonight's guest is also a member of the prestigious Les Dames d'Escoffier. The city of Oakland declared June 5th, 2012 as, quote, her day for her significant role in creating community and establishing Oakland as a culinary center. In and amongst all of this, there's a degree in Russian language and literature I gotta know about, experience with Bobby Flay, and more honors and awards than I can count. So an introduction alone really isn't gonna cut it here, so let's bring her right on. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, our guest this evening, Top Chef 15 alum, evangelist of modern Southern fare, and so very, very much more, Chef Tanya Holland. Chef, how are we doing this evening?
Hi, Shawn. I'm doing great. And, I just got to say, I'm so impressed by your French accent.
Oh, my God. Listen to that.
Yeah.
We actually just got a French intern at work today. Maybe that has something to do with it. I appreciate your flattery. It will get you everywhere. I promise you.
Awesome.
So, folks new to the program, folks who have listened for a while, but can't remember anything, like me, we have starters, mains, and afters. Starters is the background of where the guest in question has come from, what brought them to where they are. Mains is where they're at. And afters, a little bit more irreverent, a little more off the cuff, but I assure you no one's been injured in 71 episodes. I don't see it happening now. So tell me, Chef Tanya Holland, about where and what you grew up eating.
Well, I grew up in Rochester, New York, and I grew up eating pretty much everything. My parents are from the South. My dad's from Virginia, my mother's from Louisiana. And when they moved there, they missed their food from home, and so they cooked a lot of that food for their friends. But they also formed a gourmet cooking club with some people from work, some other friends of friends. It ended up being 6 couples. For 20 years it went on, and it was always 3 black couples and 3 white couples. That's as diverse as the community was when they began it. And I think eventually there was a Latino couple that joined, but they just tried to create this diverse environment. And they cooked food from around the world, soup to nuts, different menus each month, and the host couple would cook the protein. I have some of those menus. I have no idea where they got these recipes. Well, they're mostly Time Life recipes, but from a Polynesian meal to a Pennsylvania Dutch meal to Mexican, Italian, Spanish, Chinese, the usual suspects. So I grew up eating pretty much everything. And later, my dad became a recruiter of engineers and MBAs for Kodak, and he had an expense budget to dine out. So I also was exposed to fine dining when I was young.
And that's so important. Being the father to 3 young boys, that's one of the first things I've wanted to expose them to. And I can't help but think, and please definitely expound upon this, that's got to be formative beyond words as to the why you landed where you did.
Yeah, it's really, they were not encouraging me to go into the hospitality business in any way, shape, or form. As a matter of fact, they wanted me to be a professional, as in either an engineer or a doctor or an attorney. I applied to engineering schools. But hospitality was what came second nature and natural because that was always around me. And we sort of had an open door and a revolving door of, everyone was welcome. It seemed like my mom was always cooking, even though she worked a full-time job and, was raising me and my sister. There was always extra food cooking in case anyone stopped by.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And that's, I frequently, talk to folks about, current day versus the back then. And there just seems to have been such a greater focus on that sense of culinary community than there is today. Mind you, I'm not staying rooted in the past. Oh, it was so much better then. There's a lot of good things we've done, but at the same time, I think that community is kind of lost.
Well, yeah, exactly. And also just like breaking cultural barriers over food and just connecting over food, whether it's a family dinner or a special occasion or, connecting with strangers and finding that common denominator. And that's what I really held on to, is that it just is a real connector and it's a common denominator. Even if you don't eat the same foods or you haven't been exposed, it really can unite people because it creates an experience, an immediate, tangible experience that you're sharing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Even if you're a part-time culinary podcast host, you can sink into it that way too. So, safe to say that growing up, you were adventurous, eating-wise. You really didn't shy away from too much.
Yeah, no, I was very adventurous. Still am. I'm not really. There's certain things I'll try once. I'm like, I don't need to have that again. When I was I think I had some horse meat when I was in France. And then I was in Kazakhstan a couple of years ago, and that's definitely a national dish. And, I was polite, but I don't really need to eat horse.
No. I mean, I can see that. I would, like you, I'd give it a go, but unless it really, lit some kind of fifth cylinder on fire, I think I'm good to go past that. Good to leave Mr. Ed. Although, who was I talking to? Laura from your season. She mentioned that she was making stuff out of reindeer, and all I could picture was Rudolph getting strung up by the nuts, and I couldn't take it. So definitely a mental hurdle there. So here you have literally this beautiful, fertile culinary field laid out for you, where I think it's safe to say a lot of folks don't get that early on. It's typically the story of the meat and potatoes, this, that, and the other thing. But you've got this awesome fertile field that you can grow from. Looking back at those foods that you grew up with, what's one or two that you absolutely miss with just a longing you can't even express? Like, what's a childhood food that brings about nostalgia to you?
There's so much. That is the problem because, my mom fried chicken a few times a week. She always made cornbread. She made gumbo all the time. And there were certain dishes that from the gourmet club that landed in her repertoire on a regular basis, like chicken cacciatore. And, I haven't had chicken cacciatore in years, but, I would be very excited if someone made that for me. I mean, I should make it myself, but...
Come on over. I'll make it for you. I promise you. I'll make it for you.
Okay. Okay. It seemed exotic at the time, but also, it was just, I love the flavors and, love knowing the origin of the recipes. But, her stuffing and there's just so much. I have so many food memories that it's not even funny.
No. Yeah, and it's kind of, a beautiful stroke of luck, albeit, probably could have called it, that you gravitated towards the cuisine you did. It seems almost like a near and dear cornerstone of your upbringing.
Yeah, well, as I was determining that I wanted to be a restaurateur, one of the things that inspired me was that I hadn't really seen a restaurant in the genre of my heritage elevated and, contemporary in the sense where the food was elevated and the service and the room and all that was coming together. I've seen some places where people tried to do a really elevated room, but the food was really secondary, or the food was, down home really good, but the room was not a focus at all.
Yeah.
And, so I felt like all these other ethnic cuisines had, evolved in that way, like Italian and Chinese and, so many different, because I lived in Manhattan for a while and I saw all these other genres and not, Southern soul food cuisine, really.
Yeah. So talk to me about that moment. Tell me how that came to be. What was your aha moment that it went beyond just something you enjoy to something you wanted to put your very life and soul into, like you've done on this season of Top Chef?
It was, really living and working in Manhattan in the late 80s, early 90s, and seeing that industry, the chefs who were doing innovative things, the restaurateurs who were creating exciting environments, and what was being written up about them. It just seemed like a very creative environment that was accessible, in terms of, being able to excel if you just, worked hard and you had a passion for it. And I just loved creating environment more than, almost anything for people where people can feel very comfortable and nourished.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something very significant to mention, is that you came through a time where it wasn't this, well, we've got to go to culinary school, well, we've got to do this, and culinary celebrities are a thing, so I want to be one. You came up when it was much more, I want to say grassroots, for lack of a better word, but you definitely, not to call you a hipster, but you were in it before it was cool. Yeah,
and nothing was based on fame. I was not motivated by fame because it was more like being recognized by your peers and being, that kind of accomplishment and being good at what you do. But, there weren't really celebrity chefs until the late 90s is when it, really the Food Network started to boom. Of course, we knew of Julia Child and Jacques Pepin, but, I always assumed that I would be significantly older before I could write a cookbook or, do television, because those were the only examples I had. So I really saw the industry flip, in the middle of my career, for sure.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, hold that phone for a minute, because one, anytime I can relate to some of these young chef-testants, I can tell them of watching, Jeff Smith, Martin Yan, Julia Child on public television when all my other friends were watching, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. I didn't care about basketball. I didn't care about sports.
Right.
These folks were my heroes. And I saw a certain picture of you and a certain Julia Child on your site.
Yeah.
There's a story there, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course, very few people don't know who she is. And when I was in cooking school in France, she came to visit, and spent, a few hours with us, and it was just, it was wonderful. It was unbelievable because you don't think you're going to meet someone like that, let alone sit next to them and have a conversation. And she's very down to earth and very accessible, and that's the thing that I've held on to most in my work is, the humility piece. And I always say a little humility goes a long way.
Oh, man, absolutely.
And what I learned from, meeting Julia Child is how, accessible she was. And a lesson that has stayed with me throughout my career is that, humility, the importance of it, and a little humility goes a long way. And not bringing ego into the work. Of course, we all have pride and we, want to do our best. But I think just knowing that, I don't know, just the sense of humility. I don't know how else to say it.
No. I'm with you 100%. And honestly, that's probably one of the main aspects. A lot of times I'll sit back. Top Chef has provided me an incredibly expansive range of folks I've been honored to have on, from my very first guest. Now, here you go, episode 72. And I always notice one trait about each. And having been a middle school, high school English teacher and everything, I'm a teacher by trade. No matter what I'm doing, I'm a teacher at heart. And I could pick that up off you, and there was no ego. There was just knowledge. And so that shone through. And then to see that picture, to hear that story about you and Julia makes beautifully perfect sense to me.
No, well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I love to teach. I love to share information and also to attain it. I have always valued, I grew up, I was the only child till I was 40 and a half, so I spent a lot of time around my parents and their friends, older people, and, I just listened and learned, and I still have that value of, the wisdom of those who came before me. And I just think it's, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Hands down. So definitely, young chefs listening in, I know there's a good handful of you now. Drop the ego. It's never going to serve you. Keep it enough to get your stamp on things that you make, but God, don't carry it around like a tool.
I agree. And what people told me when I was younger, your time is going to come when it's going to come. And, also you learn as you get older, you have to be in the moment to a certain, to a certain extent. And, of course, everybody, we're such the immediate gratification society right now.
But yes, we are.
Just because we have access doesn't mean it's going to happen any faster. You still have to do the work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to do your time, kids. You got to do your time. You heard it here.
Especially with a craft like cooking, it's not something that you can just master immediately. And, what I've loved about my industry is that there is endless amounts to learn and endless amounts to, master, which is why I went on Top Chef, because it was a new challenge, and I've never been afraid to get out of my comfort zone, and that, let me tell you, that was out of my comfort zone.
Yep, exactly. And,
but I learned and I grew. I learned and I grew from that experience.
I actually just posted a quote the other day about, and I'm sure I'll butcher it here because it's 9:30 and whatever. But when you stop learning is when you become old. You don't become old before that.
Exactly. It's so true.
Absolutely. So speaking of that, let's talk about current day and where you learn from day in and day out. Where does Chef Tanya Holland draw her inspiration from on a day-to-day basis?
I learn from my colleagues. I'm very fortunate to live in the Bay Area. Our group here is very collegial. And it's an open community, and people are always supporting one another. And I just feel so lucky. It's not, I said on the show, I don't like to hang out with chefs all the time, and I don't. However, I know a lot of amazing chefs and, food industry professionals here that we're just supportive of each other. I dine at their restaurants. I mean, I'm usually the last thing I want to do at the end of my workday is cook for myself, and I get inspired by other cuisines and, how they're treating their ingredients. And just by living here, I feel very fortunate. I don't take it for granted. Living in California and being really, having great access to these markets and farmers. So yeah, those are a lot of the places that I get my inspiration from.
Yeah, I'm insanely jealous of where you live, having had a brush with greatness. It is beautiful.
I did my coast, you know that, so it's not like,
It's all beautiful out there. Stop being so humble. It is gorgeous. Driving from Buellton all the way up to San Fran and stopping everywhere we could. It bummed me out. Casey Thompson was on the show last year, and I tried to hook up a meeting with her, but she was out of the area. And then Keith Breedlove, your state fair chef. He and I were supposed to hook up and missed a chance. So like I told him, that just means we got to come out again. And it sounds like I've got a third visit to make now. So we're in good shape.
Yeah.
We're in good shape. So talk to me, obviously you have an incredible career. Pulling the curtain back again, before going on air, I was letting Chef Tanya know that I was nothing short of floored by her resume, by her credentials, by her pedigree, if you will. So with that career in mind, tell me what the greatest thing you've done to date has been, if you had to name one.
Oh wow, that's a hard one. Well, I have a few accomplishments that I'm just like. I'm very proud to be a member of Les Dames d'Escoffier, which you also pronounced very well.
Oh my God, I love it. Thank you. I needed that ego stroke so bad, you have no idea. So explain to us, though, what exactly that is. I know Escoffier, and I know Les Dames, so I can only imagine how prestigious this is, but go on. I can't wait.
So I learned about the organization when I was in my mid-20s, that it was this invitation-only, very prestigious group of women in food, wine, and hospitality. And I always say Julia Child was one, and Alice Waters is one.
Holy
and
shit.
We have so many, phenomenal members who have, written most of the cookbooks that you see on the shelves and created, innovative kitchen tools and cooking schools and everything. And I always set that as a goal. Like, I'd love to be one day. And so when I became a Dom in 2010, I just I felt like I had arrived. It's the one club that I really wanted to belong to, and I've grown so much from my affiliation and my interaction with the colleagues from that group. And we are international. We have a chapter in Mexico and London and British Columbia, and we're working on a chapter in Paris. And we have, I think, in the States, maybe 40-some chapters. A few states have several chapters, and then some states don't have chapters because they're a little too small or, for instance, I don't think there's a chapter in North Dakota. Sorry, I don't know, don't want to offend anybody about the food scene in North Dakota, but I don't think we have a chapter there.
Yeah, I could see that.
But yeah, so we do, our big mission is to mentor women in our industry and to create opportunities through scholarships and experiential, scholarships as well. So, for instance, a winery owner might host a young woman who is thinking about going to that industry, or we have food writers that we have scholarships for. And we're also, part of the group in our country who's just trying to forward our industry as far as making us, more progressive with fair pay
Absolutely.
and equality and opportunities in the industry. And I really love this. I mean, it keeps me on my toes, so I just really love my involvement.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. That's actually the past couple episodes. Actually, Katsuji from a couple seasons ago. Chef 2. We all kind of touched on that as a significant thing, and again, food kind of flies under the radar. There's always been this air of it's certainly come to the goddamn surface lately. Of this male-dominated bullshit, ego-wagging industry, and Bourdain, Colicchio, they've all kind of called it out, and it's good to see. It really is. It's refreshing. The fair pay. I really don't know what cave we've been living in for the past 100 years. It's time to cut the shit. It's time to.
It's really hard. And I've been fighting this equality thing my whole career, and just a lot of people were saying I'm crying wolf or this whole thing. I'm like, no,
that's bullshit.
I don't have any reason to cry wolf. I'm just trying to point out what's actually happening.
Exactly. Boy, the nice host facade has fallen down quickly. I'm sorry to go all dark all of a sudden, but I hate it. So.
Say that one more time.
No. I feel bad that the nice podcast host facade kind of falls by the wayside when this comes up. But there's no time to be nice about it.
Yeah, I mean it's time to just get things done, and we've got to just really turn this around. But I feel fortunate right now that people are recognizing the voice that I have, and what I can add to the conversation. So it's good. It's good. I feel like there's a lot of potential for movement right now in our industry. But it's funny because I still can't believe how people don't understand our business. And talking to Jonathan Waxman the other day, we were co-judges on Iron Chef. I hate an episode of Iron Chef. I was a judge. It was so much fun, I have to tell you. So much more fun judging than being judged. All
right, so I'm going to have to text you some pictures after we get off this episode. You'll understand what a fanboy I am. And the fact that you just dropped Jonathan Waxman like it was John Smith down the street, I now have two broken toes because that name landed on him. But go ahead.
That's hilarious. No, we were just talking about how our industry just needs a real big overhaul. But I think we also need to really... and I've been talking about this with other colleagues, we have to educate the public, has to understand what it takes to produce what we produce. The human capital, the actual, capital, the time, for instance, and I hate to out this friend, and she probably won't listen to this podcast, but she, had invited me to join this vacation house, and then she came back with this great idea of I wouldn't have to pay, but I could cook a dinner for them in exchange. And I was like, no, it's my profession.
Exactly.
I'm not asking you as a business person to review my business plan on your vacation, or as an attorney to whatever.
You don't bring a surgeon along on a vacation to have your gallbladder pulled out. Let's stop.
Exactly. It's just it's so funny.
Yeah. No. You're absolutely right. And I'll tell you, if you look back, not saying you will, not saying you have to, you're busier than this, but I actually recently, a good friend of mine, Chef Steve Neumeister, I was actually away on vacation on that California trip, and he texted me and says, hey, you have your knife roll still? I said, yeah, why? He goes, you want to come cook for 300 people? I said, hell yes. And we did. We plated, what did we play? 293, 294?
Wow.
And I mean, we put it down. But there's a beauty of understanding at the very light level that I do, mind you. I'm not saying I understand it intimately like you all do, but to do that is why I hold this show honestly like church to me. This is me interviewing people who I revere for what they do, for what nobler cause is there but to feed a fellow human being, So no, that understanding, that's part of the platform. That's part of making people aware, like, hey, look, you don't get to sit there, go on Yelp, and be a jackass because you feel like it, because you're having a bad day, and one peppercorn is off center. Why don't you go in the back, do it for 8 hours, tell me how you feel by the end of it, you know?
Right.
Wow.
Exactly.
Gee, look at what you're pulling out of me. I'm a nice guy, Tanya. God damn.
Oh, I know you are, and I'm very kind myself, but don't mess with me.
Exactly. Mama Bear's got claws.
Right.
Awesome.
You know,
Awesome.
I wish people could understand a little bit more, you know, that we're dealing with, you know, just so many variables that are out of our control, just like, you know, the human capital alone. You know, somebody doesn't show up for work, somebody calls in sick. It's not like we're a corporation. I mean, we have people depending on the outcome of our product, like, immediately. So
exactly.
When that cog in the wheel goes down, like, the whole wheel kind of falls off. You know?
Yeah, you don't have stock in the back room that you can call on. Those dishes need to be washed, whether you want to or not.
Exactly.
Who was it I was talking to? Wait a minute. Was it Laura? Or was it... I think it might have been Laura.
Uh-huh.
Who she had to come in. She's like, no, it was Carrie. It was Carrie. She had to wash dishes. She's like, yeah, I just got done washing dishes. I'm like, are you serious right now? But, you don't think twice about that because you got to have clean plates to put out the dish. It's crazy. How many times... Oh, all right, I'll speak for the standard work environment. Oh, that's not my job. That shit does not fly in a kitchen.
Oh, yeah, no, that's not my job. It's not in the vernacular. Like, no. It's all your job. And especially as the owner, I mean, we all laugh, restaurant owners, you know, that, you know, this glamorous, you know, really sexy life that we live.
That has been the best part of 4 years of doing this show, is finding out what a blatant lie that is. For the most part, some people have it, and that's good. But out of 72 episodes, I'd say it's maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah, and they have it for a short period of time. You know, they've had times where they have not had that. It's but you know, it's what we chose, what we love, and you touched on a point that is near and dear to my heart. Like, even more than cooking, I am so passionate about feeding people, you know, and that's why I align with nonprofits that are all about, you know, solving hunger issues. Because I just think, like, it's so satisfying. Even if I don't have any food in my cabinet, you know, like, or if I'm not cooking for someone who comes over, if I can pull out some crackers and cheese, then, you know, and feed you, then, you know, that makes me feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna break protocol here, and I'm gonna pull the curtain back. Everybody listening, I just texted Chef Tanya a picture of our 50th episode promotional materials and tickets and everything. So for the 50th episode, we did a live show from a local theater. So basically, I got 5 former guests, me, and a shitload of beer on stage. And we talked food for like an hour and a half, and we raised $1,500 for the local food cupboard. So
great!
Yeah.
I love it. I'm looking at it now. That's so great.
It was a good time. I'm sorry.
What is CGPC that looks like the
CBGB logo? Coarse Grind Podcast.
Oh, I love how you just appropriated the CBGB graphics. That's awesome.
So I found the font on Creative Commons, so anybody listening with a lawyer background, it's legal. I totally ganked it. So there you go. But that's very near and dear to me as well. And I think being a parent and having been a teacher too, you know, you see the kids go through, and kids being hungry. You know, I can gut it out if an adult is hungry. You will break me internally if a child is hungry. Like, I can't even handle that. So in any case, it sounds like you and I are on the same page. We should probably fly you out for episode 100 and have you on stage for the live show. So that'd be awesome. So yeah, so a lot of themes, a lot of threads. in food, from equality to hunger to all this stuff. But let's get a little shallow, shall we? Let's talk about foodie trends. Notice how I got nasal when I said foodie trends that need to go the hell away. What are your top 3 that you hate?
Oh my, let me think. Oh God, that's a good one. I feel like I had one like on the tip of my tongue. I was like, oh my God, I'm so over this. But I'm a little bit over crudo. I like it, but it's like I just feel like really like could you make less effort to to just do anything because
exactly.
It's not even, it's just like all right, it sounds fancy because you're calling it crudo, but really what it is some raw fish with salt and olive oil. Like shut up.
Well, I was gonna say too. Does carpaccio fall under that? Because that kind of gets the. Yeah,
I mean it does. Yeah, it does. But it's definitely more like all this like fish crudo stuff. It's just like wah wah wah.
Yeah, isn't that sushi? Last I checked, but what do I know?
Well, sushi is different. I feel like sushi is more artful because it's all about the butchering of the fish and the cut of the fish and the really high quality. It's more of an art form to me, sushi. If it's done really well.
Yeah, that's.
And it's also been around for a long time. It's not like I just feel like everyone has adapted the crudo. Everybody's done the crudo thing. So.
Absolutely. That's called leading your witness, by the way, kids who are thinking about starting a podcast. That's how you get somebody to answer the answer you were looking for. Yes, sushi is very different from crudo. I knew that, but I wanted to hear it from someone as brilliant as Chef Tanya. So talk to me about 2 others. What do you hate? Be mean.
Oh, let me think. I know I got it, but I'm trying to think. I really just hate busy plates that have way too much stuff on them that, people are trying to show off that they know what lardo is
yes.
or botarga or whatever, and it has nothing to do with anything. It's just on the plate.
Yeah. Yep. I was actually
any superfluous ingredient that really has nothing to do with anything.
Amen. Amen. I was in a microbrew. I'm gonna pull the name of the town back, and it's only because they, for whatever reason, snubbed me for an interview, and I'm kind of like, all right, fine. I still went in, and I had it, and they touted this lardo dish on their menu, and you're gonna love the shit out of this right now. You are gonna love this story. Lardo dish, right? And I'm like, all right, cool. Lardo in a small town, I could do this. Do you know what literally came out? A snowball with the equivalent of maybe some wheat thins. I almost vomited. I'm like, that's repulsive on so many levels. Good thing you passed. Thank you very much for saving me that time. And we got up and rolled out. So I figured you'd appreciate that. Lardo is this. It's honestly, how many ingredients can we put an O on the end of and feel good about ourselves?
Right, crudo, lardo, that's so funny.
Exactly. All right, so what's number 3?
All right, I think it's just time to, retire the pork belly.
Shit, ow. Really?
I mean, I love it, but it's everywhere. And, when it's everywhere, it's not always done well. And I'm tired of it not being done well.
No, I hear that.
Just it's like, oh, pork belly. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you mean shitty, fatty, soggy bacon?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
All right, cool. So, you've been mean. We've given you the hall pass on that. Talk to me about what your next 5 years holds. Now, I do know we mentioned a little bit beforehand, and I wanted to bring to the surface, you have 2 new locations coming up?
Yeah. So, of course, I mean, the whole 5-year thing, I am one of those people who, I have stopped really projecting what that could be years ago because so many things, so many opportunities that come my way and that I could have never imagined, and or changes or not opportunities, failures have come and I'm like, oh, okay, that happened, or detours that I didn't expect. So, it's hard to say. But I do know for sure that I have 2 leases, and I'm opening up 2 places this summer. One is going to be a larger location in Oakland, which I'm calling my flagship location. It's going to be Brown Sugar Kitchen, full service and full bar, and about 80 seats. So, a little bit, about 2/3 bigger than what I have now. And then I have a space in the Ferry Building, and that's going to be a concept called Brown Sugar Kitchen Counter. And it's counter service, and it's going to be a little bit of abbreviated menu. And I'm really looking forward to that because that hopefully is the prototype for my expansion plan of world denomination and brown sugar kitchens everywhere. Tokyo, Paris, Dubai, Mexico City. I'm just kidding, but you know what I mean.
Wow. Look at you go. Look at you go. I love it. I love it. And I mean, Brown Sugar Kitchen, talk to me about that. Obviously, you're online at TanyaHolland.com, and you recently, or not so recently, started with catering with Brown Sugar. Is that true, through Blue Heron?
Yeah, well, I have a catering background, so one of my first jobs in Manhattan, which actually is the pivotal job that really made me, commit to this industry, was office manager of a catering company. Still exists in the Meatpacking District, the Upper Crust, and we did all these parties at museums around the city, high end, and it was amazing. And then when I came out here to California, before I opened my restaurant, I worked for a lot of catering companies because it's one of those positions where it's easy to kind of be transient and take the jobs as they come. And I have a significant catering background, and I thought that Brown Sugar Kitchen was going to be a kitchen for me to service my catering clients and then do, a little baked good, a little coffee. Had no idea what it would become. But so I've always had that in my repertoire, but then as the restaurant became so demanding, I couldn't really serve my catering clients, so I partnered with Blue Heron, a local company, and so now we are able to provide Brown Sugar Kitchen catering with them as the support and the infrastructure. So that's been really fun.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
And I love collaborating, and that's why competing and on Top Chef was really against my grain. But I'm glad I did it. I'm just not that's not my nature. I'm more of a collaborative, creative person. But you do what you do. Absolutely.
And you learn what you learn from that new experience. So, here you are learning, continuing to learn, and it's the best possible thing you can do. So let's, we've basically covered the serious part of the talk, and I think we've touched on some pretty cool topics. Again, I really try to make it a point to touch on that equality topic until I see it go away completely. Whatever I can do to raise awareness through this humble show, that's what I'm going to do. And thank you so much for speaking so intelligently to it. Now I'm going somewhere with this. Now with that out of the way, we're going to touch on a bit more of the irreverent interview questions on the way out. Again, no one's been hurt in 71 episodes. I don't see it happening in 72, but you did sign the waiver, correct?
Did I sign the waiver?
Yeah, you signed the waiver, right?
I think so.
All right, perfect. There you go. Okay, strap in. Here we go. I'm standing in your kitchen. You pick professionally or at home. What music do I hear?
Oh, well, I can tell you both. So, because they're different, actually. At the restaurant, I have a soundtrack that's very, it's got to be family-friendly and accessible to everyone. And it's very strong in R&B, but there's also some pop music and some jazz and funk, a little bit of funk, a little bit of, there's some, I think we have, the Stones Waiting on a Friend in there, and just a little nod to me, we have How Soon Is Now from the Smiths, because I went through a serious new wave period.
You don't understand. Morrissey is my man. Morrissey is my man. Well done. Well done.
Yeah. So, we try to have something for everyone in that mix. And when I'm at home, I love hip hop. It's just like most of it is definitely not for dining, but I like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I like a lot of, some of the new stuff that's out from the new younger artists too. I listen to, and it's kind of dancey and, just a little too much for a restaurant. I'm very sensitive to music as it creates an environment while dining. And I've been in some places and I'm like, oh my God, nobody thought about the music. They're playing something that has nothing to do with the environment, or the sound isn't right. And, I'm very sensitive to the part that plays. And at home, also I might listen, like one of my favorite soundtracks is from the movie Amélie, the French movie. I don't know if you know it. And
Yeah.
It's very instrumental, but it's very lively, and I just always just go there because I lived in France, and it's just like it just brings back so many amazing memories of mine. Which I want to talk to you. Ask me what was going on in the future. I want to tell you, and people can find this information on my website. Basically, doing a little plug here, unselfish self-promotion.
The stage is yours, Chef. The stage is yours.
Okay, I have two great culinary adventures coming up. One is at the beginning of September in the southwest of France. I am going to be one of the makers, so to speak. I think there's going to be, I'm not sure what the other guests are who are sharing their crafts, but I will be a guest chef at a manor house in Brantôme, which is near the Pyrenees, and it's a 5-night adventure, and we stay there, we drink, and we eat, and we play, and it's actually like it's beautiful accommodations, and it's a pretty reasonable entry fee for, whoever attends it. And then next year, I will be leading a culinary safari in Tanzania in March of 2019, and I can't wait for that. We're going to be starting in near Kilimanjaro and going to several camps and ending up in an organic farm, and I'll be cooking along the way with the locals. Ooh. So I have to say that, this has been the beauty of, my occupation is that, people eat everywhere, and, if you stay open, you can find different kinds of opportunities to create, your own incredible life experiences. So I'm really looking forward to those.
Yeah, absolutely. And where can they find more information on those two amazing culinary tours?
TanyaHolland.com.
TanyaHolland.com, folks. You heard it here first. So be sure to check that out. So speaking of deserted islands, awkward transition, go with me here. You're going to be stranded on one, and you can only bring 3 foods, drinks, or food type items with you. What would they be and why?
Okay. Do you understand that I've thought about this so much?
I don't, but I do now.
Because basically, every Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, and New Year's Day, I am on a deserted island, because those are the 3 days that I know that I can shut the doors of my restaurant and people will most likely understand. And I do not accept any invitations on those days, and I just hole up in my apartment, and I have champagne or a nice burgundy. I could go for a white or red burgundy. Those are my go-to wines. And I love pasta with red sauce, a pasta bolognese is my favorite. This year, for New Year's, I made lasagna with a red sauce.
Ooh.
So pasta with red sauce, lots of fresh Parmesan. And then for dessert, I have to have chocolate. A chocolate truffle, homemade truffle is one of my favorites. But I'm also very happy with just a really nice chocolate bar. When I say chocolate bar, I mean, something that's made by a chocolatier.
Exactly. We're not talking Hershey, even though I'm from Pennsylvania. I get the difference between the two.
Exactly. I'm a purist too. I don't like the inclusions. I'm not really an almond or hazelnut.
No, you don't need it.
Yes. 68 to 72% chocolate is my, bittersweet chocolate. That's why I go too bitter is too much for me unless it's blended in, to a dessert. So
she's got
there
it.
You go.
She's
there
got
you
it. She's got it. Yeah, the Hershey bar is basically the Coors Light of the chocolate world. Fine, wonderful. You're eating chocolate. We get it. But
Right.
we're talking about Dogfish Head 90 minutes here. So stick with it.
Exactly.
Stick with it. So have you read Melanie Denea's My Last Supper?
No, I have not.
I swear to God, this is one of the most, like, I introduce so many people to this, and I'm so glad to do this because Melanie, I'm hoping by now you're listening. We've talked on Instagram. I'd love to have you on the show. She is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful photographer, but she did a book. She did a book called My Last Supper. Then she did a follow-up called The Next Course. And her pre-formatted interview format was kind of the inspiration for the show. But she'd do these awesome pictures of, the first book was 50 famous chefs. And they'd all be asked the same questions, the same format and everything. And it all revolved around the wonderful late night game in the culinary circle, which I've learned of. You're checking out tomorrow. What's your last supper? What would you eat? What would you drink? Who would be there and why? So I ask you, tell me about it. Tell me about your last supper.
Oh, I think it would definitely be during the summer, let's hope, with like an open porch, like French doors and a cool breeze coming in, and I would be at a party with some of my dearest friends and family, with candles, with votives. I just love dining by candlelight. I mean, I'll light candles by myself if I'm sitting here. I don't care. I'm such a romantic like that. I'm just like, I'm toasting to myself.
Nice.
I just felt like early on in life, I kind of knew like life is short and carpe diem, just live life to the fullest has always kind of been my MO. And, there'd be, great music, lots of laughs. I love surrounding myself by people who make me laugh, and that I can just be myself around, I'm fortunate to have some good friends, who live around the country, and I'm sure we would all figure out a way to get together.
Damn straight. Damn straight. What would you eat? What would the meal be?
Well, I think, if I knew that this was my last meal, I would definitely have a cheese course in there somewhere. I mean, of course, I'm a little bit partial to French cheeses, but there's some amazing California cheeses and Italian cheeses I would include. I would probably try to dig up some foie gras from somewhere.
Nice.
Yeah, and I love seared foie gras as opposed to like a mousse or a cold foie gras. So try to figure that out. I love braised meat too. If we're gonna go for it, you might as well get all the cholesterol you possibly can in there.
What's it gonna matter? You're done.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't. Whether it's short ribs or oxtail or brisket, that'd be great. But I love fish, so and shellfish. So crab or lobster, something in there. I worked a few summers on Martha's Vineyard. I know the difference between that stuff that's pulled out. Oysters would be in the mix. Oysters are one of my favorite foods for sure.
Absolutely.
We probably start without some champagne. That would make sense.
Yeah, that would be a good transition.
Right. That would make sense.
Exactly. And then on to everything else that was living that we're about to kill in honor of, your last day. Right. All the meats, all the cheeses, all the foie.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. As decadent and as classy as the lady herself. And finally, the last question, perhaps the simplest, perhaps the most complex. 72 episodes. I've never been able to figure out which it is, but it's a pointed one, but a basic one. What is food to you in one word?
Life.
Love
food
it.
Is life.
Love it.
Yeah. Food is life.
No other answer, because all aspects, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine. It's my social life. It's my work life. It's but it's what sustains us all. We can't live without food. So food is life.
I love it. I love it so much, and I love that you took the time to be here with me this evening, Chef Tanya.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
It's been an absolute honor. Again, this is what happens when you don't actually check the check the resume of the guest until a couple of days before. Then you start having panic attacks. You're like, how many French words can I screw up? But again, just such an honor to have you here. And again, I thank you so much. TanyaHolland.com. Be sure to check out the brown sugar catering action at BlueHeronCatering.com. On Instagram, Ms. Tanya Holland, all one word. Twitter and Facebook, Tanya Holland. And again, be sure to check out those 2 new locations she's got coming down the pipe. And once again and again and again, you'll get sick of it eventually. But thank you so much for being here with me this evening.
Oh, thank you, Shawn. I had a wonderful chat with you, and I hope we get to do it again someday.
Likewise, I cannot wait for it. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode number 72 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. With me this evening, the impeccable, amazing, astounding Chef Tanya Holland. Our producer this evening, as always, has been the lovely, voluptuous Johnny Leland Robinson. Be sure to check out his Steampunk Honesdale happenings this June 2018, and next episode will be number 73. You won't want to miss it. Stay tuned.